Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stuttar Shati Shri Srimad Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stuttar Shati Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय. ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. न्यू द्वारका धाम की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बो. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Sri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, the status quo. It's chapter 10, entitled Divisions of the Creation, and text number 5. Please repeat after me. Tad Vilokyabja Sambhuto Vayuna Yadadhishthita Padmam Ambhas Cha Tatkala Kritaviryena Kampitam Tadvilokyabja Sambhuto Vayuna Yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritviryena skampitam Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritviryena kampitam Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthitaha Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampitam. Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthitaha Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampitam Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampitam Vayuna yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampitam. Mataji, please. Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampita Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthita Padmam ambhascha tatkala Kritaviryena kampita Tadvilokyabja sambhuto Vayuna yadadhishthitaha Padmam ambhascha yatkalam Kritaviryena kampitam Tadvilokya, looking into that, Abja sambhutaha, whose source of birth was a lotus. Vayuna, by the air. Yad, that. Adhishthitaha, on which he was situated. Padmam, lotus. Ambha, water. Cha, also. Tatkala krit, which was affected by eternal time. Viryena, by its inherent force. Kampitam, trembling. Translation and purport by Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The translation: thereafter Brahma saw that both the lotus on which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind. Purport: the material world is called illusory because it is a place of forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. Thus, one engaged in the Lord's devotional service in the material world may sometimes be very much disturbed by awkward circumstances. there is a declaration of war between the two parties, the illusory energy and the devotee. And sometimes the weak devotees fall victim to the onslaught of the powerful illusory energy. Lord Brahma, however, was sufficiently strong by the causeless mercy of the Lord, and he could not be victimized by the material energy, although it gave him cause for anxiety when it managed to totter the existence of his position. Om Adyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, what is happening here? Lord Vishnu disappeared after giving his blessings to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma has engaged in the devotional service in the form of meditation and different types of austerities, and for 100 years. And after that, all of a sudden, there is this calamity upon him. What happened is being described in this verse. Tad vilokyabja sambhuto vayuna yad adhishtitaha padmamambhascha tatkala kritaviryena kampitam. Thereafter, Brahma saw that both the lotus on which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind. Now, that is extreme calamity. It's like a big earthquake attacks. And at that time, how will you look at that calamity? If something such as strong that comes upon a devotee, that it shakes, it disturbs the devotee so much, it shakes the world around, and Lord Brahma is in this calamity right now, that everything, the entire lotus, this lotus is actually a huge one. It's the entire, it's like the base or the basic structure of the entire 14 planetary systems, such as this big gigantic lotus. And on top is Lord Brahma. He's sitting on top. And now everything is shaking as if everything is going to be annihilated by the strong, violent wind. Of course, Lord Brahma must be really in a very calamity and very difficult situation. Now, what happens next, the verse describes, because of long penance and transcendental knowledge of self-realization that had matured Brahma in practical knowledge, he drank the wind completely along with the water. So somehow, because Lord Brahma has been a great devotee, he has achieved Lord Krishna's blessing. Lord Vishnu has personally blessed him. So there was a strong energy, there was a strong force that he felt from within, Yoginam api sarvesham mad gaten antaratmana. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam samay yukta tamomata. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, amongst all the yogis, there are different types of yogis. And all are not the same. Some are very good in gymnastics. They can put both their legs around their neck and they can do a lot of tricks that we cannot do. They are very flexible in terms of body. Some are very good in terms of mental flexibility. They can meditate for long hours. Some are very good with their intellectual abilities. And some are even more perfect, that they have siddhis. They have perfected different types of superpowers by which they can do a lot of different, magnanimous, like very wonderful activities. But Krishna says, among all the yogis, who is the best? Madgaten antaratmana, the one who is constantly thinking of me from within, who has achieved me, who has embraced me from within his heart. Such a yogi is the topmost. Shraddhavan yo bhajate yomam samay yukta tamo mata. Yukta tamo means is the best yogi of all. So here Srila Prabhupada starts this purport by saying that the material world is called illusory because it is place of forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. Meaning that the living entity which is supposed to be serving the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world has been contaminated by the material, illusory energy. And just like the water, if you put some blue ink in the water accepts the color blue. If someone puts some red color in the water accepts the red color. Similarly, the consciousness, when is polluted by the material consciousness, then it accepts that form. It becomes materially contaminated. And Srila Jiva Goswami says that contamination within the consciousness is the link between the soul and the matter. The living entity wanting to enjoy separately from the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate enjoyer of everything, that living entity wants to enjoy material things. But it is not possible because the spirit, how will the spirit enjoy the matter? So Jiva Goswami Pad, he says there is a link between the spirit and the matter. And that link is called the mind. So, just like Krishna describes, Shrotram chakshus parshanam cha rasanam ghranam evacha adhishthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. The living entity who is wandering in this material world is given a set of different senses. Shrotram, ears, chakshu, eyes, sparshanam, the sense of touch, and rasanam, that is tongue, and ghranam, the nose. All these 5 primary senses are given so that the living entity can assume, can have the experience of enjoyment just like the Supreme Lord does. But that experience is illusory because in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna says that Adyam evantu kaunteya. Adyam eva antu kaunteya nateshu ramate buddham. The highly intelligent people do not take pleasure in these kind of activities because they understand that the material pleasures are temporary. So if something is temporary, then the intelligent person does not want to indulge. Because what's the point of going to a bank and depositing your savings, and you know that this bank is going to be doomed very soon? And it has happened to so many people. So many people tell you, don't invest in that bank because I invested all my savings and in 3 years they closed down my account. It's a scam. But still some people want to invest their valuable time. Just like if I tell you, I know of a very good, amazing website. Go to the website and you put $500, and within 2 weeks, $500 will become 5,000. And everybody's excited. Tell us. We're excited. We want to multiply our money. Tell us. And I tell you, the name of the website is scamyourself.com. How many of you will actually go on the phone and log in? How many would even want to check it out? No, the name itself tells you that you are being cheated. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there are two types of living entities. Dvavimau purushau loke kshara akshare evacha. Kshara sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate. So Krishna is telling there are two types of living entities. One are called kshara, infallible. So those infallible ones are the nitya siddhas. They are eternally situated in knowledge. They are the eternal associates of the Lord. When they hear the name of the material world, just like you all laughed when you heard scamyourself.com, we don't want to go there. So the Nitya Siddha devotees, they never want to even experience material world, because the name itself tells that we are going to be cheated. It's a, bhava. It's a bhautik jagat, meaning that it's made up of matter. How can someone enjoy matter? It's a dead matter. Just like one cannot enjoy the dead body of a woman or vice versa, similarly the dead matter cannot be enjoyed by intellectual people because they understand the difference. So Krishna says, according to one's ability, one is given the different set of different senses. And the type of senses one achieves, based on that, we are attracted to different sense objects. Different sense organs are given, and based on the organs, we are attracted to those type of sense objects. For example, if you have a tongue of a pig, you will be attracted to stool. You will not be attracted to nice gulab jamun, rasagulla. When the pig looks at the beautiful body of a female pig, and he is just completely, enamored. He's thinking, I just love the way she moves. He thinks like that. But the same body, when a human watches, he thinks, I want to throw up when she moves. But it's the same body. It's the same body. One living entity is watching from the eyes of a pig, and one living entity is watching through the eyes of human. But because humans have little superior intelligence, they see it differently. And because of this, that same object is not palatable, is not enjoyable by the human being. So in this fashion, different bodies are awarded to a particular living entity who wants to enjoy separately from the Supreme Lord. And Krishna says that Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. So such a deluded living entity is constantly traveling, being completely enamored by the illusory energy, sitting on the machine like this body, sitting on this yantra arudhani mayaya, sitting on this machine of this material body. The living entity is traveling from one species to another, constantly wandering for the sake of temporary pleasure, but never achieves it. So these senses are so strong. And our Adi Shankaracharya, he describes in his book called Viveka Chudamani, he says, Shabdadi bhi pancha bhireva pancha panchatvamapuhu swagunena baddhaha Kuranga matanga patanga meena bhringanada panchabhiranchitakim. He says these five sense organs, the five senses, they are so strong that even if one sense object, even if one of these five senses is strong, it causes death. For these five animals, these five entities have died because of these five senses. Who have died? Kuranga matanga patanga meena bhringa, these five things. So he says Kuranga, the deer. The deer is very alert, he has very flexible body, he can run so fast, but just because his sense of hearing is his weak point, because of that, the hunter, the smart hunter, comes with a nice flute, some nice instrument, and he plays it, and the deer is completely sitting, it's completely dumbstruck. He's dumbfounded. He's not able to move. He is listening to the music, unable to move. So the hunter comes and catches the deer or shoots it. And then there is Matanga, the strong, gigantic elephants. Who can control them? The wild elephants. Nobody can catch them. They are like the kings of the jungle. Nobody can even go close to them. But such a big male elephants, they are so strong, but they are so easily captured. How? By a female elephant that is very well trained. And then, the men, what they do is train a female elephant, and then the female elephant goes and, makes a nice friendship. And it is described, she rubs her body against this male elephant. And that's it. He's gone. He's in a different world now. He's not there anymore. He's dreaming and he is intoxicated just by the touch. And then the hunters come and so easily, he's in a different world only. They come, they chain him so nicely. And he doesn't even care. Okay, put chains on my legs, put chain in my neck. He doesn't mind. And he is captured because of the sense of touch. So, Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, the moth. The moth is attached to the fire. That's the sense of Rupa. So he is attached to the beautiful form of the fire. And he thinks, fire is so beautiful, I want to embrace it. But he rarely understands that the fire is so strong that he will be devoured. So the moths, especially in the rainy season, they want to jump in the fire, want to embrace it, and so many of them we see dead. There is a pastime of Srila Prabhupada. One time Srila Prabhupada was performing yajna for a ceremony. And Srila Prabhupada was the priest that he was performing the yajna. He was the one putting the ghee in the fire. Swaha, swaha, swaha. So he's performing the sacrifice. And when the sacrifice was almost over, Prabhupada took out one dead moth. And he showed to everyone. And he showed, look how this poor moth has embraced the fire, and the ultimate result is it is dead. So we see that the living entity is enamored by the illusory energy. So Srila Prabhupada further describes that thus one engaged in the Lord's devotional service in the material world may sometimes be very much disturbed by awkward circumstances. Now, after Patanga, there is Meena. Meena means the fish. How the fish are captured? Just very simple. You just put a bait and they throw in the water. they attach a bait to the long string and they throw it, and the fish cannot control the sense of tongue, and he wants to eat the bait, and then captured and suffocates and dies. So the fish is captured in that fashion. And then the fifth one is bringa. Bringa means the honey bee. The bees, the black bees, they are attracted by the sense of smell. They are, when they smell the beautiful fragrance of the honey of the lotus, they get intoxicated. And then they enter the lotus, and then the lotus closes after some time. And then they are trapped within inside. And the bee is being trapped in that lotus. There is bunch of honey around, but there is no happiness anymore, because now the bee has been trapped away from his natural habitat. And now that bee, it dies within. So here Shankaracharya says, Naraha panchabhi ranjitah kim. But what about human beings? These all 5 animals, they have been captured and they have met their death just because of being attached to one of the 5 sense objects, one of the 5 senses. So, what to speak of the human being, because the humans are attached to all 5. What is going to be the, destiny of the humans if they're attached to all the 5? And that's why we see that if we want to eliminate crime from the entire world, the only way that can happen is when people are trained in Krishna consciousness. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj said, the only thing that the world is lacking is lack of Krishna consciousness. There is no scarcity. There is no other problem. There is only one problem with the world, and that's the lack of God consciousness. Because unless one is trained in God consciousness, and unless one is trained to control one's senses, there is no possibility that the living entity can, cannot try to hurt another person. Or there are so many rapes, there is so many robberies, just because people are enamored by different objects of the world, and they are ready to do anything just to achieve their so-called happiness. So the crime can be eradicated only if people are trained in Krishna consciousness. So here further Srila Prabhupada describes that, coming back to the Lord Brahma's calamity, Lord, here we see Prabhupada is saying that one engaged in the Lord's devotional service in the material world may sometimes be very much disturbed by awkward circumstances. So can somebody tell what are the different examples of this? That we see that sometimes even the Lord's great devotees, the greatest of the devotees, we see they are going through some awkward situations, and then we think that, oh, why this devotee is going through such a phase of life? Why Krishna has to put such a devotee in this difficulty? Sometimes somebody is diagnosed with some fatal disease, or sometimes a devotee may meet an accident, or sometimes there is calamity. Devotee may lose all the money, all his life savings are gone, or sometimes there is death of a loved one. So why Krishna is putting the devotees in awkward circumstances, especially awkward circumstances? Does anyone want to say about?
This is because of this to teach the world that this is a dangerous place.
So Krishna is making devotee as a medium to teach the world. But any examples? Or this Prabhu? Prahlad Maharaj. No, I'm just asking in general. So in general, so, and what is your, I just take us. Or if you have a mic.
The Pandavas fighting with their cousins for the kingdom.
Yes, Pandavas. So Pandavas also went through a lot of calamities. Especially you see awkward situation in the sense we can discuss about Pandavas. How Draupadi was won in the Swayamvar by Arjuna. Arjuna is the one who won the hand of Draupadi in the marriage. When all the brothers came very happily, rejoicing that yes, our Arjuna now is to be married to Draupadi. Arjuna and Draupadi, they are getting marriage. When they came in excitement, Mother Kunti was in the bathroom. She was in another room, and in excitement they said, "Oh mother, we have brought something. Just come out. We can't wait to show you." So all these times, being in the exile, what used to happen is the brothers would go out and bring some different fruits, vegetables, or different ingredients, and they would come happily and tell Mother Kunti that, "Oh mother, look, today Bhima fought with this demon, he killed this demon, and now we got entire of his property, now we brought these many fruits and this." So Kunti was in that consciousness. She was thinking, now, whatever you got, you divide equally amongst all you brothers. So that's what she said. Whatever you have gotten, you divide amongst each other. Now there was a big awkward situation. This is an awkward situation. Why? Because so far the Pandavas have never ever disobeyed their mother. And they can never disobey the word of their mother. Because especially in Kshatriyas we see this tendency. Word is the highest. Even if you have to give up your life for the sake of your word, then Kshatriyas are ready to die, but they will not let the word fall. So words are very important. Just like Lord Ramachandra went to the forest just to protect the word of his father. So here is a big awkward situation, because how can one lady become the wife of 5? It's not possible. It has never happened in the past. So what happened is, how to solve the situation? We can never even think of disobeying the mother. And we cannot let this happen, because Arjuna is the one who won the hand of Draupadi. So what to do? How to resolve this? The other 4 Pandavas, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Nakul and Sahadev, they said there is only one way to solve this. We 4 will give up our bodies. We'll lit the fire and we will give up our bodies. In that fashion, if we don't exist, then there is nothing to divide. And they were actually ready to do that. And Mother Kunti was praying, especially to different sages. They also consulted different sages. And Mother Kunti is praying to Krishna. And then there is arrival of Vyasadeva. And then Vyasadeva is the one who told how this situation can be dealt with. He brought the reference from the past, and he said we can have this, we can still do this. So he gives a proper program to the 5 Pandavas, and he says that she can be married to all the 5, but she will not be the wife of all the 5 at the same time. So he gives in detail. So he says for 1 year she will be the wife of Arjuna, then 1 year Bhima. So he has all these different plans. He gives the different ideas. And we see that such awkward situations come in the lives of the devotee, but ultimately that makes the devotee more glorious, because the devotees are undisturbed by such awkward situations. Tiraskrita, vipralabdha, shapta, kshipta, hata api, Na tat pratikurvanti tat bhakta prabhavopihi. The Bhagavatam describes that even if the devotee of Lord Krishna is tiraskrita, is defamed, just like Lord Shiva was defamed by Daksha, but Lord Shiva was calm and composed in the beginning. Vipralabdha, cheated, like Prabhu said, Pandavas were cheated. They were the real, owners of the kingdom, but they were cheated from the kingdom by the Kauravas. But they were undeterred. The Tiraskrita, Vipralabdha, Shapta. Sometimes the devotee of the Lord may be cursed. Shapta. But he is still not disturbed. Just like Parikshit Maharaj was cursed. Kshipta means neglected. Sometimes a devotee may be completely neglected in the assembly, but the devotee still remains humble. And Hata api. What to speak of all these four? The fifth one is Hata api. Hata means even if someone is trying to kill a devotee of the Lord, even at that moment, the devotee of the Lord is completely situated at the lotus feet of the Lord, and he is completely dependent on the Lord, and he is fully depending on the protection of the Lord. So Shapta, like we can even take the example of Chitraketu. Maharaj Chitraketu, he became, after that entire episode, that he was attached to having a son. But then Angira Muni said that there is no son written on your, birth chart. There is no son. So don't try too much hard to get something that is not existent. It's not meant for you. You don't have a son. But the king wanted a son so badly that I have such a big kingdom but no heir. Then Angira Muni finally, if you're so attached, okay. Then finally he gave, they performed a yajna, and then he gave the fruit or whatever to his first wife Kritadyuti, and he got the son. But what happened next? The son lived for a few years. The king became so attached to the son, but that son, Harsha Shoka. Angira Muni even said, the name him Harsha and Shoka because this son will give you great happiness, but then he will give you Shoka. He will give you a great amount of distress and suffering. So the son, because the king became so attached to the wife who gave the son, he was only spending time with that particular wife, Kritadyuti. So all the other co-wives became so envious and jealous that they decided to poison the child. And they did, and they killed the child. And then what happened? The king became so morose, so dissatisfied, and he was crying like anything. He had such a bad akrosh. He was screaming in agony of separation from the child. And then there is arrival of Narad Muni and Angira Muni. And then they revive the consciousness of the child for a while, and the child is saying, what mother are you talking about? What father are you talking about? You're not my mother, you're not my father. I am the living entity. I have had so many mothers and fathers through different species of life. And the child gives such a nice knowledge to this Chitraketu. And then from there, Chitraketu was promoted to the planet of Vidyadharas. Narad Muni initiated the king Chitraketu and gave him a mantra, and he said, you chant this mantra, and in 7 days you will see the Supreme Lord face to face. 7 days. Only 7 days. That's all it takes. If we are sincere. Only 7 days. And he did. And he had direct audience with the Lord, Sankarshan. He pleased the Lord Sankarshan. And Anantadev gave him a post. He became the king of the Vidyadharas. Like being from the earthly king, he became the king of the Vidyadharas. And he was flying in a big aeroplane that was gifted to him by Lord Vishnu. And while flying on that big plane with all the Vidyadharas, and they were performing kirtan. So he was constantly, completely situated in Krishna consciousness. And while flying, he saw Lord Shiva. And he saw that Lord Shiva is sitting in the assembly of, Charanas, Siddhas. Lord Brahma is sitting. Narad Muni is sitting. And so many of followers of Lord Shiva are sitting. But he saw that while Lord Shiva is giving a discourse to all these, Lord Shiva was embracing Mother Parvati and she was sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva. And then he criticized. He jokingly said that, hey, Lord Shiva, you are such a great exalted personality. You are supposed to be the spiritual master of everyone. But what is this behavior? That you are putting your wife on your lap and you are embracing her. This kind of behavior is not proper. And he said it jokingly. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he did not offend Lord Shiva. He only said it sarcastically. And because Lord Shiva is also devotee of Sankarshan, and so is Chitraketu, he thought that it's like two ISKCON devotees are meeting each other. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How are you? You are from? So they were actually very friendly. They are like God brothers. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he only said it jokingly and sarcastically, and that's why Lord Shiva did not mind. Lord Shiva was silent. And because Lord Shiva was silent, all the assembly also did not mind. Here, Mother Parvati got offended and she said to Chitraketu that you think you are a big authority? You think that now you are going to punish us? Lord Shiva is faultless. He does not have any faults. So that's why I curse you to become a demon, to take birth in a sinful family of demons. So that's how Chitraketu became Vritrasur. But what was the reaction of Chitraketu? He did not at all argue with Mother Parvati. He said, whatever you are giving me, Mother, I will accept it with the folded palms. I am ready to accept it, whatever. Because it has to be the desire of Supreme Lord. Krishna wants to do something with me. Krishna is so much in love with the living entity that sometimes Krishna puts the devotees in different situations which may be awkward or calamitous or provoking situations, that Krishna wants to accelerate the progress of the devotee back to Godhead. So in that fashion we see, especially Chitraketu, he became the demon Vritrasur. And then in that very life he was delivered. So we see that in this fashion Lord Brahma is also not at all deterred. He is not at all confused by this raging wind that is trembling. And the entire lotus is moving. And still Lord Brahma is well situated in his Krishna consciousness. And we see in the future that he drinks that wind and brings back the situation to rest. So we'll stop here. If anybody has a question, we can take one question. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.